I'm very emotional.
Me too.
Oh no,
Okay.
it might make you cry.
First movie I ever cried to as a kid was The Toy with Richard Pryor, and I don't know why.
The fact that you remember that is pretty impressive. I gotta give you credit.
It meant something.
That's how emotional, because I don't think that anybody should probably have cried. Although I think it was sad when he had to go back.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean it was.
No.
I have to. I agree.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly. Did you actually make it through the Notebook without crying?
I refuse to watch that because I know I'd probably cry like a baby.
I
Every
don't think I
time.
Cannot do the
Every
Notebook.
time.
Will not. I refuse. Although I cried during Titanic, I'm not gonna.
It's good.
I did
though.
too. It's like no. I didn't want him to.
Did not cry during Lion King when Daddy died, but yeah. All right. And now we're all three gonna squirt just waterworks.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
Just
God!
get ready.
Yeah.
I've already
I know.
jinxed us.
Yes.
Okay. SYNGAP1 is a rare non-syndrome.
Non-syndromatic.
Syndromatic. Okay. Syndromatic. I typed that wrong. Syndromic. That didn't sound right. SYNGAP1 is a rare non-syndromatic neurological disorder that causes intellectual disability. Bridge the Gap is a locally run organization that provides support and awareness for families with children that have SYNGAP1. And here to talk about it, please welcome President and CEO Monica Weldon and Chairwoman of an upcoming Golf Classic for SYNGAP1 families, Lisa Spencer.
Hi. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes. Hello. Thank you for having us.
Okay, so because full disclosure, I've never heard of SYNGAP1, looked at your website, it's associated with autism and other things, so let's begin from my perspective and from my friends who have not heard about it. What is it, and describe an average day in the life of a family and a kid that has...
Okay. I guess in a nutshell, SYNGAP1, we all have this gene.
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, talk right into the mic. Okay, and then you can just start all over.
Okay. Well, SYNGAP1 is a gene. It produces a protein called SYNGAP. We all have it, and without it, it causes a disturbance between the neurons that they can't communicate. So it's a regulatory protein that controls how fast the dendrites grow. I don't know if y'all remember your biology days, but
Terrible at science.
but it just basically pretty much destroys the neuron connections. So it causes intellectual disability. Many of our kids have a high percentage, anywhere from 70 to 80% of the children have some type of epilepsy, whether it be grand mal, absence seizures, monoclonic seizures, and the gamut just kind of goes on. It's also linked to autism. The autism is a spectrum, and if you were to describe our children that have it, they would probably be on the more severe side of the spectrum, like PDD-NOS.
What does that stand for?
Pervasive developmental disorder, none otherwise
Specified.
determined or specified. Yes. So it's just a clinical diagnosis. Autism is a clinical diagnosis, and our children, I guess the everyday life of our children is routine. Our kids mostly are nonverbal. Some are totally nonverbal. Some have maybe 50 words. My son only has maybe 200 words. He's 8 years old. And, Lisa's son as well. And both of our sons suffer from absence seizures, which we can go missed because really they stare out in space. There's not a drop to the floor. There's not, convulsions.
That's the obvious signs of
Right,
a typical
right, and they
seizure.
can go missed. So, an everyday,
Challenge.
Lisa, do you want to try to explain your everyday?
Every day is different, but it is also somewhat calculated. Landon is all about structure, and if he doesn't have that structure, or there's too many transitions in his day, it becomes extremely challenging for me. I mean, he's 60 pounds, and I wind up having to put him over my shoulder and carry him into places because he just simply will not budge. He is extremely loud when he wants to be, and he is the sweetest, most adorable kid most of the time. But My goal every day is to make sure that everybody sees the positive in it, because there is a lot of challenging behaviors whenever
Right.
it comes to raising a special needs child with SYNGAP1.
And there's so much more than meets the eye because,
Oh,
you know, to a
100%.
perfect stranger, all they see is a kid throwing a tantrum, and it's,
Right.
you know,
Mhm.
well, why can't you control your kids?
Right.
But they have no idea. I wouldn't even say ignorance. They just don't know.
And
Right.
that's why we're here. I mean,
Mhm.
it's all about education and awareness and letting people know out there. I mean, because we're dealing with autism, epilepsy, intellectual disabilities all rolled into one. So we don't just have to deal with one specific thing every single day. It is complicated, it is calculated, and everything that we do is methodically planned out.
Mhm.
If you know there's going to be a change in his routine for the day, I have to start talking to him about it 1 to 2 days beforehand to get him prepared.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
And you know, we had a doctor's appointment. The other day we went to the neurologist, and they canceled on the way there. I had to call every single other doctor we had to see if we could do a happy visit, because his entire day would have been done.
Mhm.
He would have shut down for the day. It would have been meltdown after meltdown, and it's just, those are just the things that we have to deal with that not most everybody else is going to. But I will say this: if you look into our kids' eyes, you can see straight into their soul. They are pure. They don't know to lie. They don't know what stealing is. They just, it's black and white for them. And to me, I think they're the most beautiful souls you'll ever meet in your entire life.
Monica, I want to talk about Bridge the Gap and what kind of progress the organization has made with regards to treatment and maybe even a possible cure. Is that even in the forefront? Is that even a thought?
Yes, actually, we are actually not even really 2 years old yet as a foundation.
Okay.
We organized September the 9th of 2014, and since then it's actually, I'm still scratching my head because it has just blown up and has grown so quickly. It's just has amazed me, but. We currently, I guess we started out with a group of parents, and we still are. We're slowly building our organization. We have a international scientific and medical advisory board. I have the world's best scientists that are helping us along the way, all the way from Scotland, England, Canada, and here in the United States, and especially here in Houston.
Oh, we rock
So,
when it
yes,
comes to cure
I-
for children. I mean,
You know,
wow.
my son was born in the most, our sons were born, I'm partial because I grew up here, but in the most awesome city, because we are a huge medical hub.
Yeah.
And I've got Baylor and Texas Children's behind us, and so we started off planning an international conference, and we've been planning this probably for a little over a year, trying to bring in the money to bring all the experts in one room, along with 20 some odd plus families now. And since we have developed, we probably average, in fact this morning I got another patient reaching out to join our community across the ocean. So we have many international patients all the way from Madagascar, Trinidad, Brazil. Europe is a pretty big hub for identification and diagnosis for this disorder. But we started out planning our conference, and Texas Children's and Baylor College of Medicine and Florida Scripps are actually co-organizing it, along with so many sponsors that have, you know, hopped on board, because this is huge. The National Institute of Health in Washington took about a year to get their attention, but they actually just identified SYNGAP1 or SYNGAP syndrome as an official rare disease on their list in January of 2016.
Wow, just that recently.
Yes, just
Oh,
that
geez.
recently. Because otherwise it was really hard, you know, to get funding or to get people to pay attention with just, oh, that's just a gene mutation.
Yeah, when there's so many combinations of all these other disorders that are lumped into it.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. And so we ended up having Belgium twins, identical twins, where one is considered mosaic for it and the other one actually has a syndrome. And so that was like the nail in the coffin for this disorder and the research that came out on that. But since then, having it recognized by the NIH, it's just exploded. It's just been amazing, and I wrote a grant for an opportunity with NORD, the National Organization of Rare Disease, and the FDA, and we won this grant along with 19 other organizations to do a natural history study along building with a patient registry to help supply the data for that particular study. In fact, it's sitting on my desk right now, waiting to be sent to the NORD and FDA and our IRB, which is the Institutional Review Board, who oversees the type of study that we're doing, just to make sure everything's in line.
And these studies are ultimately going to lead to the research that will lead to treatments and a cure. And that's why it's so important to get these done, and where a lot of the funding through our foundation is going to be filtered to.
And transitioning into funding and how we as Houstonians can help with spreading awareness and getting treatments and a possible cure for SYNGAP1, let's transition into the Golf Classic that's coming up in November.
Yes, November 28th. It's going to be at Bay Oaks Country Club. We're extremely blessed that they are backing us and they're helping us to bring this to light. We're going to have a shotgun start at 11 o'clock, and it's going to be an extremely fun event. I mean, it's going to start out with a DJ and margarita machine on hole number 1. We're going to have the golf tournament, then it'll transition into a kind of like an early dinner, late lunch. We'll also have a silent auction there, and we've got silent auction items ranging from safaris that range to about $8,300 all the way down to beautiful Kendra Scott jewelry, and so, you know, and basically everything in between. And we'll also have hole-in-one contests where you can win a car. We'll have a couple of those, thankfully. And it's going to be a great time, and it's going to be a great way for us to raise money for the SYNGAP1 Foundation, which will again lead to go towards studies, conferences, education, awareness, and ultimately will help us to find a cure. So
Bridge SYNGAP, that is Bridge, S-Y-N-G-A, it's the coffee, bridgesyngap.org, that is Bridge, SYNGAP.org is the website for all the resources, the info on the upcoming Golf Classic. I'm talking to President/CEO Monica Weldon and Lisa Spencer, Chairwoman of this year's first annual Golf Classic. Thank you so much for all the knowledge and for swinging by around H-Town.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we are also still looking for sponsors as well. We're still accepting sponsors and silent auction items, as well as getting our golfers registered too.
Cool, and I'll edit that in to that.
Okay.